restore your relationship with the Lord in whatever that looks like. And so if you're struggling with the Lord, if you feel like that's strained, I want you to know there will be an opportunity for you to take a next step with Him. And so that's a big deal. Let's get into it today. You ready? Are you ready? Good. I want to welcome our live stream audience. Say thank you so much for being a part. I'm excited for today. We are talking all things relationship, and we've been through a ton this month. We learned right off the bat that the way we relate to God determines how we relate to people. The way I relate to God, the way I see Him, the way I've been taught of Him, the way I find Him in His Word depends on how I'm going to turn around and relate to people. We've also realized that the standard I give people is the standard I've received from Jesus. And so all of the standards that we have found throughout relationships is love as He loved you, forgive as He forgave you, accept people as He accepted you. And so we've learned that our standard comes not from what you do to me, but from what He did to me. That's my standard. And so we've learned that the way I relate to God determines how I'm going to relate to people. And then also, last week we talked about mercy marriages. That help your marriage this week, anybody? Yeah? Come on, somebody. None. Oh, man. We talked about mercy marriage, that we're going to choose mercy in our marriages. We're going to choose to have mercy. We're going to make room we're going to make an allowance for faults and make a gap, make a space for our spouse to grow. And we're going to choose mercy. We're going to choose love over lust. Amen? I'm really tempted to re-preach that, but I'm just not letting myself today. And today I want to delve into a very scary reality that I think we've all discovered on some degree, some more than others, but it's a reality that everyone's been a part of, everyone's experienced. For some of you, it's just kind of left you with a hiccup, kind of a weird in life. And for some of you, it's left you hurt. It's left you feeling like you're trying to climb out of a hole. It's left you feeling like it's been a struggle your whole life. And it's this reality that I feel like I want to dive into and try to bring some freedom to where relationships are concerned. And I found it in a statement that I heard probably about a year ago that's just kind of weighed on my shoulders. And so I just want to dive into this today. And the statement is this: that your parents were growing up while you were. Your parents were growing up while you were. And when I heard that, it was just kind of like a weird. I've never thought of that before, because my dad was Superman and my mom was Supermom. Like, they had all the answers, right? Did you kind of think like they had all the answers? They had it going on. They were solid. Whatever they were giving me was it. They knew it. They were all there. They were fully growing. And the reality that your parents were growing up while you were has a lot to do with who you are today. And I want to dive into this reality, not just for like, oh, cool, but for healing's sake, for relationship's sake, for the ability to make sure we do something different with our life. Now, maybe some of you had a phenomenal childhood in here, but it doesn't discount you. It doesn't discount you from still needing what we're going to talk about today. And so around this topic, for some of you, this was hurtful. Some of you might have just been weird. Like, man, my parents were weird. You got any weird parents in here? Don't show them right now. But, some of y'all just your parents were weird. It's like, okay, we are not doing what they did. Right? Just this weird stuff, but they were still growing up as you were. And some of the things that you maybe experienced as a child caused you to just be hurt, feel like you're in the bottom of a hole trying to dig your way out, trying to start brand new. And here's what happens, is you thought you were the center of attention. Your expectation was that I'm the center of attention. Obviously, why not? I should be. And so we just kind of take this place that we're supposed to be and are the center of attention. But then when we're not getting that back from the one that we're expecting it from, it leaves us kind of just crooked. Like, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. And it leaves these pains in our life that we don't know what to do with. And here's my thought around this is, while we were expecting to be the center of attention and have all the right answers and have Superman and Supermom at our need and helping us through life, they weren't, because they were dealing with drama. They were probably dealing with, like someone said, mama drama and daddy drama and spouse drama and neighbor drama and uncle drama and aunt drama. And all the drama that you're dealing with today, they were dealing with drama too. Maybe even some of them trauma. While you were growing up, your parents were too. And I would go as far as to say it probably left a mark. And I just want to deal with that today around relationships. Now just imagine this, if their drama became your identity. If their drama became your identity, imagine how you're seeing the world today. The way you've always seen it, because their drama became your identity. Or the fact that they weren't there when you thought they'd be there became your identity. And now you're seeing the world today out of a filter because your parents were growing up while you were trying to figure this thing out. What the Bible calls this is iniquity. It calls it iniquity. And it's actually, if you could imagine, if you've ever seen a tree that started to grow and something wounded it early on and it grows crooked. You ever seen that bent tree? You ever seen, I can't remember, it was in a bank. There's a tree that is so crooked, it's like, why don't they just cut the thing down? Like it's literally growing sideways. Like just cut it. But it's this wound that happened early and it's bent. And that's iniquity. If you want to know what iniquity is in the scriptures, it's that you're living with a bend. And that bend is a failure or a pain or a mishap or maybe a rejection or an abandonment. And if you live with that bend, then you create children with that bend. And you create a generation with the same bend. It's called iniquity. And God actually says, I will visit the iniquity of the fathers unto 4 generations. Think about this. God is saying, I want to visit the iniquity of the children for 4 generations. Why? Because he cares. Because he has to. I want to visit that iniquity. I want to show up and do something about that bend for 4 generations, from children to children to children, because I want to remove the iniquity so that it doesn't keep going on and on and on, because your parents were growing up while you were. And so around this realization of iniquity, there's a chance for us to grow. And my question today for us, because we can't change the past, and you're not the past, you're not what happened to you, you don't have to be. You can be what God's called you to be, but we've got to make a decision today, and it's around this question. Are you going to grow up or just grow old? That's the question that we have to wrestle with today, that we have to ask today. Am I going to choose today? Am I going to grow up, or am I just going to grow old? Because it's an option, and you're not growing up just because you're growing old. You're growing up because you choose to. You're growing up because you choose to face some stuff. You're growing up because you choose to have some hard conversations, because you choose to look in the mirror at some stuff and go, you know what, I'm done with the bend, because I'm not raising a generation with that bend. I don't have to have a legacy with that bend, because God promised he would visit the iniquity of his children's children's children to straighten that out. But it's our decision to say, I'm growing up. I'm not just going to grow old. And so if we want to break the cycle of this identity crisis and grow healthy children, grow a legacy of people that you might be accountable to in your life, we've got to make some serious decisions today. And I want to try to help us with this. Let me show you where it starts. Jeremiah chapter 6. If you got a Bible with you today, Jeremiah chapter 6. Let me just say this. Mature people learn from history. Mature people learn from history so they don't repeat it, because you got to choose to grow up. And so you choose to go, I'm going to look at that and learn from it and do something different. And I would go as far as to say what we find here in Jeremiah is history. It is the problem of what we've experienced from generation to generation that we have to be willing to say, no, I'm going to grow up. I'm not just going to grow old and float downstream my whole life. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to choose to make a shift, because I'm creating a new legacy. You know how powerful you are today? You have a choice to change your family tree. You have a choice today to change legacy. The change you make today can change generation to generation to generation. You have the power today to cut something that does not need to go into your children's children's children. You have that power. It's phenomenal. And it's looking at history and saying, I'm not repeating this. And so we see in Jeremiah here, this is God talking to a generation that literally fumbled the ball. And God kind of comes to them with some aggression, like, what is up? And the word would be rebukes them, but he also explains what's going on and why they're dropping the ball. And he says this, here's what the situation looks like. Here's what the culture looks like from 30,000-foot view. He says, from the least to the greatest, their lives are ruled by greed. From the least to the greatest, they're ruled by greed. From prophets to priests, they're all frauds. Look at this. They offer superficial treatments for my people's mortal wound. That's a big deal. And they give assurances of peace when there is no peace. This is the culture that God's talking around, this generation that literally has dropped the ball. And then verse 15 kind of gives you the reality of why the culture is the way it is. He says, are they ashamed of their disgusting actions? It's a question. Not at all. They don't even know how to blush. He's painting for us this picture of what's created a generation with iniquity, with bend. What's created a generation that starts out lacking. See, we were supposed to start out on platforms, but most of us start out digging. Most of us start out with the machete trying to make a trail for ourselves because no one made it for us. See, I have no problem confronting my kids in things that I used to do. That's not hypocritical. You're going to start on a way bigger platform than I did. I told one of my kids the other day, you are going to be way, way better than I ever was. Because I'm going to make sure I build you something so tall and so much higher than I ever got to start on. I'm going to give you a platform to start your life on. Because I'm going to make some hard choices to build you a platform. It's a decision that I'm going to give you an opportunity. And what he's talking about here in this culture is a people, listen to me, here's where the culture started. They were only growing old, not growing up, because they were consumed by greed. This generation was consumed by greed. And what creates this bend is when my life is all about what can I get? How much more can I store, right? Can just get another one. And we have an entire generation, and you might have grown up in a generation, and the lack that you experience might have been the fact that your parents were out chasing success while you sat at home alone, trying to be the center of attention, wondering where they are. And it's greed. It's this gotta have more, gotta get more, gotta get it, gotta get more, gotta get to the top, gotta provide more, gotta have more in the house, gotta have more to store. What more can we store? And what God's declaring and showing us is if we want to grow up, not just grow old, check this greed. What are you chasing? What's life about? Let me just say this, nothing will ever be enough if you chase stuff. Nothing will ever be enough if you chase stuff. That's greed. I just need another one. My kids need more. Get them another one. It starts off giving you a bend because it ends in lack. And this is what they started with. It was ruled by greed, and it caused this culture of destruction. But here's what I want to focus on today. It says they superficially treat the mortal wound. And so they put a bandage on brokenness. And when you lack Christ in your home, when you lack Christ in your life, when a life is ruled by what more can I get, you already create a void in your children because that doesn't fulfill them. Stuff does not fulfill your kids. And what's happening is there's a mortal wound, which means a deep infected hole in the heart of every child, and sports doesn't fill it. An awesome swing or kick doesn't fill it. All of these things, more stuff, more clothes, a better career, a better look, popularity, doesn't fill it. It's a bandage on top of a mortal wound. And God is saying, you know what my people are doing? They're crying, no, peace, get another one, get better, go further, you're all that, you're the best, you're a hero, you're famous, go, be popular. It doesn't fill the wound. And what he's saying is, you're trying to fill a wound with a Band-Aid. You're putting a Band-Aid on a mortal hole, a wound that's actually infected. And you're crying, peace, we're all happy. No, you're not. You're miserable. Because there's a bend for greed that's causing a hurt in the next generation from generation to generation. And we can't cry peace, peace when there is no peace. The only way to fill that wound is Christ. It's the only way to fill that wound. Let me just say, it's the only way to fill the hole. To start off a generation in the right way is to fill that hole first with Christ. And then whatever else comes can go on top of that and actually flourish. But we can't put Band-Aids on mortal wounds. And let me just say, every generation starts with a wound. And as parents, we're going to kind of be thinking of our parents, but we're also going to be thinking of being parents throughout this message. So kind of go here with me. Do the dance with me today, right? We're going to kind of be going back and forth. I wish y'all could just be in my mind with me for a second, because it's just like... But this reality that my parents were, but I'm not going to be. My parents were, and I'm going to enhance that. My parents were, and I'm going to choose no on that because I'm choosing to be. And if we start off a generation and leave the mortal wound the way it is and just try to fill it with a Band-Aid, we're going to create something we don't want. But if we're willing to say, no, I'm going to fill that hole first with Christ. And I'm going to raise up a generation that knows their identity in God. Because I'm going to fill that wound. Because I'm not raising wounded kids. Listen to me, just because I'm busy, just because I have something to accomplish, I'm not going to be the parent that's growing up while my kids are growing up. I'm not going to be the parent that gets lost in iniquity while my kids are looking to me for answers. I've got to push the brakes and let God do something in me so I can raise up a generation that does something in theirs. And here's what this leads to. This kind of living that we're looking at, the greed and the hole and just filling it with a Band-Aid leads to a generation, I'd say we're right here today, of people who don't even blush. They don't even blush. You know what that means? No conviction. There's no conviction. So I'll do what I want. It's God's problem. God don't like it? Ain't my problem. And there's no blushing. It's a generation that will do absolutely disgusting, ungodly things, and there's no conviction. It's just like, ain't my problem. Wouldn't you feel like we're there today? Like there's no blushing. Just think of blushing for a second. There's no like embarrassment, like, oh, I shouldn't do that. It's like, you don't like it, it's your problem. And there's no blushing because it's an authority issue. We've lost the reality of our need for God to fill the hole. And that I don't want to do anything that would cause him to not be here to fill the hole. Because that's how the wound gets full. They don't even blush. It's a people who do evil and they don't even care. They don't realize that there's a God in heaven, but even further, that he's a father. One of the greatest revelations that Jesus brought to the earth was, my Father who art in heaven. And then he changed it and went, our Father who art in heaven. And the Pharisees were like, oh, that's blasphemous. How can you call God Father? And it's the revelation that he just kept bringing. He just kept saying Father. And I think it was kind of like, you like that? Because he's Father. He's Father because he fills the void. He's Father because he's always present. He's Father because he has the answers. He knows you better than you know yourself. And so I want to talk around this today. What do we do? What do we do? We don't want to continue the cycle. We don't want to continue the culture. And we definitely don't want to continue in fake peace. We don't want to continue with fake peace, putting a Band-Aid on brokenness. And so what do we do? Well, let me just say this, that if your parents dropped the ball, it's not permission to blame. If your parents dropped the ball, if the realization of, man, my parents were growing up while I was, and they did a horrible job. If your parents dropped the ball, it's not permission for you to blame. We talked about this last week because all blame does is allows you to smuggle your problems into the next relationship. If we just go, well, it's their fault, then what that allows me to do is take all the pain, all the problems, all the frustration, all the iniquity, and just smuggle it into the next relationship. and then smuggle it into the next one, and then smuggle it into the next one. You know what happens when you do that? You have blame, 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 and somewhere we've got to go, oh, there's a common denominator here. You know what that is? It's a wound. There's a wound here that needs healed. And so we pick up the ball and we choose to let the wound be healed. Anyone in here ever broken a bone? Anyone ever broken a bone? I got a few. Who's broken more than one bone? How about more than 5? Gage's hands is going to stay up all. Every bone in your body. Yeah, twice. So usually, back in the day, I don't even know if they do this anymore, but when you broke a bone, you got a what? A cast, this cast on your arm, this hard plaster around your whatever you broke that would protect it, right? You'd get a cast and it would protect it. It would protect the wound so that it could actually replace or get placed and then heal and grow. You get a cast around something that's broken so that it can heal, so that it can find itself back in a nurturing place to be strong again. And I think just like life, we have to push the brakes. No matter what happened, what it looked like, we got to push the brakes and be willing to heal, which means there is going to be a time where you've got to put a hard something around that wound to protect it. You've got to put boundaries or something around that wound so that it can be protected. And whether you know it or not, you will do that naturally. You won't have to stop and think, I'm going to put something around this. By your design, you will block it. You will put a wall up. You will do something to protect that wound. It's like an eternal cast that's to protect that wound. But here's the problem. It's for a season, right? You don't wear a cast forever. Gage probably cut all his off early. You don't wear them forever, right? You get rid of that thing, and then you're like, oh, God. Right? You remember that? I remember being like, oh, God. Bro, smell it. Right? That's why you get it off. You only wear it for a season because it's supposed to heal. And the problem is what we usually do is we wear the cast forever. We build the walls forever. You get hurt, you build a wall around it to protect it like a cast, but then you forget to cut it off. You forget to remove it, and then you end up with this thing that stinks and is signed and has all the past on it, and it's all there, and it's everyone can smell it but maybe you, and it itches and scratches, and you got clothes hangers down there, and it's just this frustration in life because there was supposed to be a season that you got healed from and then took it off so that it could grow and become a healthy part of your life. And maybe some of you have worn that cast so long your kids have gotten hit by it. Anyone? Yeah? You nailed them? You nailed your kids with that cast? Here's why I say that. Because kids poke unhealed wounds. You know what I'm talking about? And you have kids in here. Your kids just have a way of poking these unhealed wounds in your life. Someone said it like this: your kids will bring the gangster out in you. Right? Oh, no, you did. Oh, no. Come on. You want a piece of me? I'll show you. You don't mess with mama. Right? It's like, what is that? Your kid just poked a wound. And you know, they know somehow, some way, kids know how to poke these unhealed wounds. And I would say let it show you that you haven't been healed. Because they have a way of poking that. They have a way of getting hit by the cast. And if some of y'all in here go gangster on your kids, you might want to check your wounds. Why are my kids, listen to me, here's the best way I can say it, and I'm saying this to myself. Why are my kids getting my insecurities? Why are my kids a brunt of my insecurity? Because I haven't dealt with it. It's iniquity. It's a bend that I'm carrying on into the next generation. Because I'm supposed to be healed so that I can raise up a generation. I know this is tough today, but it's what we need. Look at Proverbs chapter 4. I want to just look how to do this real quick. We need a season to heal from hurtful things in our life. And if you've never stopped to take this season, I'd say you're not too old to take it. Take the season so you don't just grow old. You grow healthy. Proverbs shows us how to do this, and it says, guard your heart. That's that cast. When pain comes, when hurts come, when something you weren't really expecting comes, guard your heart above all else. Here's why. Because it determines the course of your life. And so if I don't stop and guard my heart, that means that I'm going to end up living out of that thing. If I don't guard my heart and get healed like a cast, if I don't take a season and just go, hold up, this needs to heal. I need to protect it for a second and just let it heal, because I'm not going to live out of it. I'm not going to live out of it. If I don't let that happen, then I will end up living. It'll be the course of my life is that area of my heart that got hurt, and I never let it get healed. It's a cast, and I'm swapping my kids with this cast because they're poking my insecurities because I didn't get healed. It'll be the course of my life. And so just a couple tips on how to do this. I think one really good way to do this is stop it at a thought. Stop it at a thought. Stop it at a thought. And don't let it get to your heart. This little space from your head to your heart is a huge, huge space, because we're to stop it at a thought so it doesn't get to my heart. When someone does you wrong, when someone does something that you weren't expecting, when someone kind of hits you sideways, stop it at a thought. It's not getting to my heart. I'm not letting it go there, because I don't just guard my heart to heal it, I guard my heart to keep it healed. Let me say it like this: be careful what you hear. You can hear things and stop it right here. It doesn't have to go to my heart. I guard my heart. Why? Because that's going to be the course of my life. And let me just say this as a dad of young kids, I guard my kids' heart with words. We say it like this: there's no lies in our home. The ones you say and the ones you hear, not in our home, because I'm guarding those. No, you're not an idiot. That's a lie, and I don't agree with that. You are brilliant, right? I switch that. I'm guarding your heart with my words, because it's going to be the course of your life. And so I do that with my children. I do that for myself as well. This space between my mind and my heart is a big space that needs to be protected. Guard your heart. Guard it so that something hurtful doesn't determine the course of your life. What if you're in here today and the course of your life has been a pain, has been a letdown, has been the very fact that your parents were growing up while you were? And you've taken that as abandonment. You've taken that as rejection. You've taken that as, I just don't matter, I guess. And now you're living out of that pain. We got to be healed from that, because it's not who we are. And so what do we need to know? Here's what we need to know about this reality, is that people are the multi-tool to your spiritual health. Anyone in here have a Swiss Army knife? Swiss Army knife? Are they still cool today? Oh yeah, it's got every tool. Whap, 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 right? I'll cut you and I'll eat yogurt while I do it, right? People are the multi-tool to your spiritual health. And here's what we need to know. We need to know this as we grow mature and healthy in relationships, is that Satan uses people to destroy and distract you. People are a multi-tool. Satan uses people to destroy and distract you. That's a reality that we need to know if we're going to grow healthy in relationships. And also, Jesus uses people to heal and perfect you. Jesus uses people to heal you. And so we've got this crazy thing going on with the reality that Satan uses people to distract me and try to destroy my life. But God's using people to try to heal you and perfect you. And people are literally the multi-tool to your spiritual health. And it's this reality that can check us up sometimes and get us in a weird spot. And so I want to just try to help us with this today and look in on this. I kind of want to prove this to you today, that things are happening on a greater scale than we can just see with our eyes sometimes. And if we're not aware to it, then we just end up growing old, but not growing better because of what's going on with people. Ephesians chapter 6, go here with me. Ephesians chapter 6. Paul, the Apostle Paul, just gets done describing all of these things about relationships. He's talking through how to have healthy relationships, and he's telling almost every person what to do. And so he's like, children, obey your parents. Honor your parents, because there will be a blessing for you if you do. Let me just say, how many know sometimes you just honor the position? right? We're called to honor our parents. I don't care if your parents were stupid with a capital S. You honor your parents because they brought you in the planet. That's a promise for you. You honor the position. If that's all you can honor the position. Thank you for bringing me in the earth. Honor them because it's for you. There's a promise with that. And so Paul's going through all this stuff. Honor your parents, and dads, be careful with your kids. Don't, get them to anger by the way you treat them. And slaves, honor your masters, and masters, honor your slaves. And he's going through all these relationships. And then he just drops into this. And it's almost like a left turn. Like, okay, that made no sense. Why did you go from there to there? But if we realize that Satan uses people, it makes total sense. Here's how all these relationships should look. Oh, and by the way, put on the full armor of God so that you'll be able to stand firm against the strategies of the devil. And it's like, whoa, hold up. We were just talking about relationships. Now we're talking about strategies of the devil? Uh-huh. So put on the full armor of God so that you can stand up against his strategies. Because, show me the next verse. Because we don't fight flesh and blood enemies, but against every ruler and authorities of an unseen world, against mighty powers in the dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. And so what Paul's saying here is, hey, hold up. I want you to know this. As we talk about all these relationships, you better watch out for the enemy's strategy because he uses people. And the fight's not people, it's him. The fight's against him. And it's amazing to me that Paul lands on this reality that I want you to know Satan uses people to try and destroy your life. And so realize that your fight's not against them, it's against the darkness, it's against the enemy, it's against the work of evil behind them that you got to be going after. Let me say it like this, Satan hides behind people. Sometimes I feel like when I preach this, people are like, no, I still want to be mad at them. No, nice try. Sounds cute, but I want to punch them in the face, right? And it's like, no, Satan hides behind people. Satan hides behind people because he uses people to distract you and try and destroy you. But mature, healthy people fight spirit first. That's my challenge to you. That's my encouragement to you. Fight spirit first. You have no right to hate someone if you're not praying for them. You have no right to just hate someone if you're not praying for them. See, the reality that Paul would go as far as to say, hey, by the way, guys, our fight's not against each other. It's because there's something behind us that's working. And that's why Jesus would go and say, hey, pray for your enemies. And we would say, what? You mean punch your enemies? No, pray for your enemies. Why in the world would I pray for my enemy? Because there's an enemy behind your enemy. And if you really care, you'll go after the enemy of your enemy. Because let me just tell you this, people that make you miserable are miserable. Because there's an enemy making them miserable. And you're getting the miserable of their miserable. That's why Jesus said, pray for your enemies. Because they're miserable. Because there's an enemy behind them. And we hear that and like, I ain't praying for my enemy. They're an idiot. No, they're miserable because Satan uses people. And so I would say, don't be over spiritual in this, but be spiritual in this. And what I mean by over spiritual is like, oh, that's just the devil in you. Don't say that to anybody, please, ever. Oh, I know your problem. It's the devil. Don't say that. That's over spiritual. Take that to your prayer closet, right? But be spiritual. Realize there's a third dimension. Realize that there's something behind stupid. And it's a hurting person. Because Satan uses people to try and destroy and distract us. And people that make you miserable are miserable. And so be aware that you're a tool. You're a tool. And so are others. But the question is, whose hand am I in? You and I are tools. We just are. That's what humans are. We're a tool, but we decide whose hand we're in. That's what Christianity is. That's what all of the Gospels talk about, is helping you to position yourself to be a tool in his hand, not the enemy's. You're a tool, but it depends on whose hand you're in. And so let me just show you a little bit about how God uses you. Because you probably can't name 5 sermons that have helped you in life, but I bet you could name 5 people. I bet you could mention 5 people that showed up at just the right time. I bet you could mention somebody that was there when you needed. I bet you could mention somebody that loved you unconditionally. I bet you could mention a person that was there at the right time with the right thing to say, or maybe nothing to say, but just present. Like there's people in your life that you could go, if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be. And it's the reality that God uses people. And sometimes we say, well, if they wouldn't have showed up, but let me just say, God showed up. Because he saw you. God showed up because he knew where you were. God was showing up because he knew your situation. Because God uses people. He's awesome. And let me just show you this in Philippians chapter 2, how we can be people, or what it looks like to be people in God's hands, because he uses people. We want to make it our goal to stay in his hand, because we can bring healing rather than hurt when we stay in his hand. Philippians chapter 2, verses 12 and 15, it says this. Notice this word, work hard. Work hard to show the results of your salvation. Here's how we do it. Obey God with deep reverence and fear. Like, God, I trust you. Take my life. Position yourself before him daily. Here's why. Because God is working in you. How awesome is that thought? God is working in you. He is actually working in you. That's a big deal. And here's what he does. He gives you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. I love that promise. And let me just say, I pray this promise a lot. God, stir up in me what will be pleasing to you. How cool is that? That God can stir up in me that which is pleasing to him. That is so cool. God's working in you to live a life that pleases him. And then verse 14, do everything without complaining or arguing. That's big. You know what the Greek word for everything is? It's everything. Do everything. Do everything without complaining or arguing. Why? So that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives. And here's what I want you to see today. Live as children of God. Live as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. Let me just say, the easy route is to just float downstream. But when you float downstream, you're a wide open canvas to the enemy. And that's why we've looked at generations and said it's a crooked and perverse generation. Why? Because default is probably being in the enemy's hands. It takes work to stay in God's hands. It takes work to do his will. It takes work to say no to the lies of the enemy and yes to God consistently. And that's why he's saying, live as children of God, and then you'll shine bright to a hurting world. Live as children of God. Be a tool in his hand. And so what do I do? What must we do? Here's my encouragement for today. I think we all need to do this. We need to choose to be parented well. We need to choose today to be parented well. You might not have gotten parented well. You might not have had that opportunity. Maybe you were. But you can choose today to be parented well by living as a child of God. I'm going to be parented well. I'm going to start today to let him visit the iniquity, that bend that I've had in life because my parents were growing up while I was, and I got the brunt of that. I'm going to let God visit it today, and I'm going to be parented by him. I'm going to let him parent me. I'm going to let him start filling me, filling those voids, and that wound that just got a Band-Aid on it, I'm going to let him rip that Band-Aid off and fill it and heal the wound. See, it's a decision that every single person's supposed to make. Doesn't matter how amazing your parents were, we still make the decision, I need to be parented by God. That's what causes you to grow up and not just grow old. God, parent me. I'm going to live as a child of God in the earth. And let me just give you one scripture, we'll be done today. Proverbs chapter 4. See, your Father in heaven can parent out the lies and pain of your parents, of your past. But we've all got to position ourselves under that to be parented well. This goes all the way back to where we started, where we were looking at guard your heart, because out of that your life will flow. And then right before that, he's actually teaching us how to be parented. And this is God parenting you. This is God starting out to parent you well. And he says this, I love this, my child. And if you just start there, just take that disposition, my child. No, he's not God in heaven. He's my Father. I read the word like it's from a father. I study the Bible like it's from a father, because he is. My child, look what he says, pay attention to what I say. That might even have brought back some father wound. You listen to what I say. Okay, that's a little much already. Pay attention to what I say. No, look how awesome this is. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. I want you to feel the weight of this today, to be parented by God. Listen to what I say. Pay careful attention to it. Don't lose sight of it. Don't get chasing greed that you just lose sight of what I've said. Here's why. Let them penetrate deep into your heart. There's that spot that you'll live from. Let his words go to that place that creates the course of your life. Here's why. Because they bring life to those who find him, and healing to the entire body. See, parenting from God heals you. The parenting from God brings life to all that you are. He's trying to parent you. He's trying to parent me. And his encouragement is, come under my word. Listen to what I'm saying. And then what I say, let it penetrate you deep. Let it go down to the wound and start working, because my words, my counsel will bring healing to every part of your body. Some of you are wounded today, but you can be healed. Some of you are wounded today from parenting, and it's time to be parented, because you need to parent. You need to parent some kids that are poking your wounds. Some kids that will poke those insecurities and get the brunt of the bend, unless we choose to let God parent us and begin healing us. I love how he says this. Listen carefully to my words. Think about how many words you've listened to. Think about how many people's words you've listened to. Think about how much media words you've listened to. Think about how many words you've listened to and built your life on them and said, yeah, that's truth. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. And God's going, whoa, stop. Listen to my words and build on those. Push pause. Guard your heart and listen to my words. Put weight on those words. And then don't just listen to them. Let them start penetrating. Let them get in there and start healing. Be parented by God, our Father in heaven, because it'll bring healing to your entire body. Amen. Let me just say this as I close here today. Some of you, for the sake of legacy, for the sake of your children, need to take God way more seriously. Let him parent you so that you parent your kids right. No, I'm fine. I'm good. Please don't do that. Let him parent you. Take him serious. Make his word priority, because it'll heal your insecurities. It'll heal your anxieties. It'll heal what your kids are getting the brunt of. Let him parent you. Take him serious. Take his words serious. Sit under his counsel and his truth. Study his word. Let it heal you. Let it heal you, because it will. Let me just say this. You will be the center of his attention. Because he's super. He is supernatural. What you were hoping for in your parents, what you were looking for in being the center of attention and having super mom and super dad with all the answers let you down, you will be the center of his attention because he's super. And he will focus in and he will bring healing and health to that deep, deep wound. Let him parent you today. Amen. Hallelujah. I want to ask you to make a bold move in here today for the sake of legacy. And I want to pray with you today.